I don't have that problem. I got rid of all mine. What's up, everybody on YouTube? You're seeing the behind the scenes of the Smoke Ring Syndicate. This week, we're sitting down with that Estes, owner operator of Stump Smokers. You can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir. Hear you great.
Fantastic. We'll hit my intro and we'll get right into it. Um, in just 2 seconds. What's up, guys? Wes the People's Pitmaster back again for another episode of the Smoke Ring Syndicate. It's my weekly barbecue podcast that drops every Wednesday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last week, we sat down. Let's see, this is what you get when I do it live, guys. I'm just completely spaced. Oh my God. We sat and chatted for a dang hour. I'll recut it in post, I guess. Um, I really and truly forgot who I chatted with, and it was just Sunday. Anyways, we've got Thad Estes, owner operator of Stump Smokers, in the house. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can.
Fantastic. Owner operator of Stump Smokers. Guys, if you've not seen a Stump Smoker, it is something to behold. Uh, Thad, walk me through kind of where your barbecue journey started.
Well, barbecue for me started about 1998 as far as the competition world. As far as barbecue, my hometown, fairly famous back in the 60s and 70s for a little barbecue joint called George Hook's. Anybody that knows anything about great barbecue knows that George Hook's barbecue stand that was out on the Sandersville Highway was world renowned. People from all over. He only cooked on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and it was not uncommon to go by there and see 250 cars at one time. And uh, you ask
Holy cow.
you ask people now, and they go like, "Well, I think I've heard of it," but you ask the old timers, and they know about George. At one time, George Hooks, I would rival it to Fresh Air as far as everybody knowing who they are. You can go to Mississippi
Hmm.
and ask folks about Fresh Air, and they go, "Oh yeah, I know what a Fresh Air barbecue is in Jackson, Georgia." So one time he kind of had that note. My granddad had a little bit to do with George Hooks's barbecue stand. Not a whole lot, but he did have a little bit of influence in it, and so that's kind of where I started. It's been in my blood my whole life, and but it didn't start competitively till I was in my 30s, and it was just something that I took a fancy to and did it for 15, 18 years, and got
Hmm.
married late in life, and had a little girl that I adore, and she adores me, and we kind of hung up our barbecue cleats and went to doing other things. But we still sell barbecue smokers. We just don't compete anymore, but we still love it. She and I get outside and barbecue 2, 3 times a month, and it's a little competition between me and her to see who's going to do what.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's still a little bit of barbecue, a little competition in your blood, sounds like.
Oh yeah.
So you are the owner of Stump Smokers. Because we competed. Well, let me back up. So you competed. What was your competition name?
When I first started, it was Forged by Fire. We competed that way for about 8 years, 7, 8 years on the Memphis Barbecue Network, and a little bit on KCBS. I probably oh 15 to 20 competitions in KCBS was all I did.
Hmm.
Memphis, there for about a 6 to 7 year period, we traveled all over the South with those guys, and it was a fun time. Met a lot of great friends. Still have a lot of great friends that are out there running up and down the road, and miss it when I talk to them. And when I go home, I realize that it was a big part of my life and a memorable part of my life, and it just I have so many great memories of all those people.
Yeah, absolutely. So you made the transition from competing to uh, having a smoker company. Walk me through just a little bit of that. I'm as I understood it, you acquired one that was in business, and you guys have done obviously amazing thing. That's why we're sitting and chatting. Just kind of walk me through that a little bit, and we'll go through that.
Well, back about 2002, I acquired my Stump Smoker. It was a situation where there I knew Walter, who owned it at the time, and he had started building a gravity feed. And I became intrigued about them because I started out just like everybody else. I wasn't on a stick burner; I was on a charcoal burner, but I was actually on Mr. Jim Max's party queue. Won a
Okay.
lot of contests on a party queue.
Yeah.
It still is. I still own it today, and it is a great cooker. Um, Found out through working with Walter when he was at the school board about his gravity feeds, and we we made a deal. I got one and fell in love with it, and believe it or not, took it to my very first contest over in North Augusta and won the rib category and won the competition. So
Yeah. And you
pretty
just
good beginner's luck.
yeah, it sounded like you decided that you had to have it.
Yes, sir. And just kind of went from there. Was pretty successful with it. Got into cooking Memphis barbecue, doing a lot of whole hog, and was had a successful run there. Did that for about 7 8 years, and the last 2 or 3 years we were really successful with it. And by that time we had transitioned. It was at the beginning of us transitioning the ownership phase over
Hmm.
to myself and one other gentleman who's no longer with it. He was with it for a couple of years and then left it all to me. He had
Yeah.
other things going in his life, but then my wife, who could not get pregnant, came in one day being a nurse and said, "I have all the symptoms of being pregnant." And we said, "Uh-oh." And we let it slide for about 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, we said, "Let's just take the $10 test." And she was
Yeah.
pregnant. We cooked one more contest, and that was it for us.
Hung it up. Hung it
Yes, sir.
up. Fantastic. So you hung up your competition shoes and put on your ownership shoes. Um, Walk me through the early days of owning a smoker company. What was your background before you got into barbecue? Like, did you own businesses before? Were you in the cosmetic business and just thought you could build a smoker if you could put eyeliner in a tube? Or walk me through where your background was before barbecue.
Um, an engineer, electrical contractor, born into an electrical contractor family, still own a
Okay.
60-year-old electrical contracting business. I became friends with the previous owner, and it just metamorphosized into him deciding that it was not in the cards for him to own a business, and
Yeah. No,
being in
I'm not
being
even.
in
I'm not even. That's not
yeah,
even where I was going.
just being invited in. And in the
Yeah.
early days, what intrigued me was the feasibility of so many great things could happen just off of this one principle.
Hmm.
And gosh, as you've seen, we went from building three kinds of cookers to now we build 12 or 14 different kinds of gravity feed cookers. And technology is technology. It's ever evolving. It just takes one little tweak to make things better. Uh,
Yeah.
we've got new cookers out there today that are I don't say they're any better, but they're certainly a lot more kid friendly for us guys that like to go out there and have a good time and compete and do well and work 2 hours on our pit to do what we have to do. We spend all the rest of the time in our meat. But so it has been an evolution, there's no doubt about it. I started
Hmm.
out real green in it and had to learn
Yeah.
quickly to stay afloat. But it's the evolution of Stump Smokers has uh, been one that we were not too successful as far as the financial end of it. And I just had to go back to what my roots were: one plus one equals
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
And build smokers that people like, and build smokers that people trust, and build smokers that people want to cook on. And that's simple arithmetic of any business. You have to find a niche,
Yeah.
and people have to like your niche.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't. I was just kind of curious if you were bending metal before, or you were doing something completely different in life before you jumped into owning a smoking company or a
Yeah,
barbecue smoking company.
I had never been a piece of metal in my life. It came about through friendship, and it
Yeah.
was
Can
me.
can you say that now though?
Can I say? Can I
You've
say I
never
bent
built
metal?
you. Yeah.
Oh, I help bend metal. I help cut metal. I try to do everything. I stay away from the welding simply because we've got some of the finest welders in the world,
Yeah.
and my normal welding looks like mud compared to what my welders can do. So I kind of say, here, I cut these 3 pieces of metal, weld them together for me. That's kind of
Yeah.
my take on
Hey,
things today.
there's got to be somebody to delegate. There's got to be somebody to delegate. I
Yeah,
say
we all
that's one thing. That's one thing I've always looked at the stump smokers is I'm like, how in the world did these guys figure out how to weld like that? Like I've tried welding, it ain't an easy task. But what they're putting, the beads that they're laying down is just really impressive.
yeah,
And
if you
that's one of the things I've always noticed on your cookers.
Well, if you ever get the opportunity to come to the shop, and my shop foreman, Danny Morris, if you ever watch him weld, he can carry on a conversation with you. And I mean an articulate conversation while welding, and it looked like rows of nickels. And I look at him and I just get so mad. I go, I can't even do a tenth that good. And I mean, I talk about what happens tomorrow, what we're doing next week or whatever, and he's welding, especially right now with
Yeah,
the help situation. He welds a lot more than he did 5 years ago simply because of the help situation that we're in, like
yeah.
everybody else. But
Oh yeah,
he's phenomenal. He's a ship builder, welder. So he's that guy that is just, he's one out of the numbers would be 1 out of 1 million that can do. There are people that can do what he does, but they
yeah,
are few and far between.
yeah. That's that's a skill set I never learned myself.
And I tell people we don't grind on smokers. Our finished product, everything on the outside is laid down, and it's what we brush it off with a grinding wheel. So if my guys ever make a casual little mistake, you see them raising their hand saying, "Danny, will you come help me with this?" And they've got, some of them have gotten where they can fix it, but Danny can take a plausible mistake and turn it into an absolutely great weld. And you never knew that there was any sign of somebody, you know, got too fast or made a bubble or did something, because he can just walk right in there behind it and clean it up. And you just go like, oh man, that's art in motion.
Yeah, well, that's always that's been fascinating to me how you can take a flat piece of steel and then it comes out like a stump smoker. I just fascinates me.
Mhm. And my second guy in command, take nothing away from him, David. He's 95% of what Danny is. Danny just had the luxury of getting more technical, more book sense. How about that? Get more book learning than David has. But as far as
Hmm.
laying down a bead, David's probably at the 95% mark on Danny. And it's like I tell people, it's like playing guitar. You got to do it every day. If you don't do it every day, you don't stay as good as these guys, because it is truly a touch, a feeling of what's coming up next, because you have to know, is that metal fixing to twist? Is that metal fixing to warp? Is that metal fixing to get hot?
Hmm.
All of those things that matter when you're welding sheet steel together, because anybody can weld a beam, but not many people
Hmm.
can perfectly weld sheet steel.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like a skill set that I don't have.
Me too, brother. So don't feel bad.
Uh, so you started out with three smokers, and you've grown to, you said 9 or 13?
We have 9 of the verticals, and we have 4 of the horizontals. So we're at about 13 or 14.
Okay. So I had my numbers right. It just was a little mixed up there.
Hmm.
So walk me through the evolution of building these new cookers. You've got your built-in base. I guess it's something that everybody knew was a stump smoker. Walk me through building or creating these new smokers. Is that are you employing engineers? Is that you guys are all sitting down and putting your heads together? Walk me through coming up with a new cooker, because I mean people have been barbecuing for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. How do you innovate?
Well, first of all, you have to have the desire to make a change, and that desire was there, and that change was made. believe it or not, it first started out with just simply the desire to go from throwing logs all night to being able to sleep. I mean, if
Hmm.
back when just the FBA was the only kid in town in the South, for us
Yeah.
guys in Georgia to smoke, we had to get off work at 12 noon on Friday and drive 5, 6, 7 hours, try to get there in time for a cook's meeting, and then start cooking and doing all the things. And if you worked all morning, because we would try to go to work at 5 or 6, get in 7 or 8 hours, and then go, and then be
Yeah.
awake all night, be awake all day Saturday, drive back home Saturday night. So you really had 2 to 3 hours sleep in a 3 day period of time. So it was a need to get a little sleep, and that's what started it. Um,
Yeah.
it went from there with kind of the poor man's ideology of saying, well, if it does this, what would happen if we tweak this just a little bit?
Hmm.
And that's where we really got started. Was you took a simple idea and you tried to make it better. And we've been very fortunate that people from all over, it started all over the South, and then it's went to the climbed out to the Midwest and into the West Coast, and now it's we sell 8 or 10, 12, 15 a year outside the United States. And I'm
Hmm.
very humbled with that. And with that humility comes the fact that those people have trust in us and they have faith. You take
Hmm.
a guy from Australia that just has read, you make a great product. I want one of them. And we send it
Yeah.
to him sight unseen, and he starts cooking on it. A, you have to know what you're doing. You have to back up what you tell people. And B, you have to be making a product that you know will stand the test of time. I tell
Yeah.
everybody the two things that make Stump Smokers and what set us aside from everybody else is integrity and
Hmm.
craftsmanship. Those two things
Yeah.
will lead you in life in anything you want to do. But the evolution with that is how we go from the next product is, you know, good people like you walk up and say, "Hey, if you would just valify that bottom where grease would drip a little bit further," and you go, "You know what? That is a good thought." So we go back to the
Hmm.
shop and we build one that's got a more valified body in it, where grease runs down and runs to one corner, and we go, "Hey, here's an innovation." And you would be surprised with the number of great people we had cooked on our product. They were always offering or asking ideas and giving suggestions, and we took those suggestions to heart because most of them made a lot of sense. We didn't have all the sense, and we didn't see. Sometimes it's hard to see something staring you right in the face, and people come along and tell
Yeah.
you. So the evolution of how these cookers was built was just listening to all our customers and trying to appease what they needed to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably exactly how I expected it to go. Was just being the competition cooker builder versus like a stamp. Somebody that's building something that goes in Home Depot. You've got your finger on the heartbeat of who's using these cookers week in, week out. So I mean, it definitely makes sense that you would do that. And I mean, who knows better than somebody that's cooking on something professionally, right?
Right. And we took that with us also. We would we never had a cooker go out the door that we didn't play with,
Hmm.
sometimes 30 days, sometimes 6 months, but we've always believed in technology and believed in evolution. The thing,
Hmm.
as you know, that makes a stump smoker work is a mechanical equation that you find in every mechanical engineering school in the country, and it has to do with how heat gain and heat loss affects a cavity for temperature. And in dumbing that down to layman's terms so that somebody like me can understand it, it is exactly the same principle as the guy that comes in the HVAC business and sizes the ductwork to go in your house. He sizes a
Hmm.
certain size duct for a certain size room to keep it a certain temperature. We do the same thing with how a stump smoker. Gravity feed is not about charcoal falling down in a chute. I hear so many people say that a lot, and I laugh. It never was. It never is. Of course, that charcoal will gravity fall. Anything that something burns out from under, it's going to fall. But that is
Yeah.
not what gravity means. Gravity is how it is drawn through that cooker and it exit out through that stack. That is how gravity feed works. That's what gravity feed, the principle was to make this work correctly. Um, and in saying that, that evolution is still the basis for everything we do. That's why
Yeah.
any cooker we build will work like the one sitting right next to it, simply because they're all built off of a equation that has stood the test of time for hundreds of years. Because how many fireplaces are there in the world that work just properly? And then you see the one that smokes out into the room, and you go to the next house and it's working properly. Heat moves forward, smoke goes up the chimney. That's exactly what you get in a stump smoker. If you apply that principle, that's exactly what you get.
Yeah. It's that actually kind of blew my mind a little bit. I was like, I always heard gravity smoker, it just it falls down. I know there's something else going on with it, but I've never actually. My listeners are going to go, this guy's a moron. But I've never heard it laid out like that.
Well, like I said, don't be confused, because yeah, gravity does feed the smoker. In other words, when the charcoal below it burns it out and the ash falls down in the ash pan, it is refeeding. Gravity is
Yeah.
making it fall. But that's not the principle. When you think about gravity feed, we're actually talking about how it cooks. So how
Yeah.
it would cook would be how it would gravity fed draw the air through the
Hmm.
smoker. And a layman's term principle is blowing air across the Coca-Cola bottle. That air that comes across the top of that stack should be drawing air in through that ball valve. And that's the principle of how it moves air through it.
Yeah. It shows how much I paid attention the last time I seen one.
Well, people just want it to work. There's a lot of people out there that have cooked on my product 10 years, and I explain it to them and they go, huh, I never knew that. But I cooked
Yeah.
some of the best dang barbecue you ever eat. And I said, well, that's really all that matters.
Yeah. This guy.
There you
This
go.
guy. I've seen a bunch of them. I mean, I sat with Robbie Roll cooking on one, and he's explaining how he sets his up, and I'm like, okay, I'll be back at the end.
Yeah. And there are people in the world that do things with the specificity that Robbie does, meaning the first step is followed by the next step, which is in turn followed by the third step, which is in turn followed by the fourth. I could give you a list of names: Robbie Royal,
Hmm.
Terry McKay. There are lots of people that are just that detail oriented, and it
Hmm.
shows in both of them have won numerous Team of the Year awards. Chuck East would be another one. There are lots of people out there that I can name, and if I'm leaving anybody out, don't get your feelings hurt, because I just don't do this so fast. But we got lots of people that cook that believe in step A comes to step B, and step B goes to step C, and they do it all the way until they close the lid on that box.
Hmm.
Everything has a specific time frame, a specific action, a specific motion. That helps you be as successful as cooking on a smoker that actually does the exact same things. Because if you take one of our smokers and you put a certain amount of charcoal, you open the ball valve a certain amount, or you do all the things you do, it will cook the same every time. The only thing that will change any smoker from having the complexity and having the methodology that ours has is if you put it in direct wind, and wind is blowing
Hmm.
15, 20 miles an hour. It can change the temperature 3 to 5 degrees, but you can compensate that, back the ball valve down just a little bit and make it work more. But the complexity of how a cooker should work, you should have the confidence in a cooker to say it's going to do the exact same thing every time. If I
Hmm.
don't change, it don't change, and that's what makes me successful. And that's what our cookers do. They don't change, not at all. People call me with problems and they go, how'd you know the answer so fast? I go, because it can only do A or B. A is the
Yeah.
solution, B is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So it makes troubleshooting pretty easy.
It does. It does. And it also gives you that experience level. If you ever, it's kind of like busting your knuckle on something. If you ever bust your knuckle on something, you never forget it. If somebody tells you, then you don't ever. So I always try to be the guy that walks people through, what are you doing? We go point A, point B, point C, and point D, and they go, I got it. So that always helps me and you become better barbecue aficionados.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Stump Smokers, you've been in business for how many years now?
Um, Going on about it. It actually unofficially started about 26 years ago.
So I mean
Officially in
you.
business, Me, I've been in it. This will be my 16th year. June will
Okay,
be.
that was the math that I was coming up with, was about 15,
Yeah.
16 years.
Hmm.
So, what is next for Stump Smokers? Do you anticipate just continuing making, little tweaks, little changes? Is there something in your mind that says I've just got to build this smoker at some point in my life? And just a crazy innovation that you just don't even know works yet, or is it more of just continuing to put up a great product?
All of the above, but we're really excited in the shop now, just finishing up the design process. We've built these before, but we've never built them with the um, efficiency of wanting to have a production line model product that we have two smokers under one
Hmm.
cabinet skin. I've
Hmm.
had over the last 2 years, I've probably had 10 to 15 people ask me about that. Why don't y'all do that on a regular production basis? Well, for it to be regular production, we need to build 3 to 5 of them a month, and that's just not happening in
Hmm.
that smoker yet. It may happen once this one's introduced, but we've got one just coming off the drawing board that I'm not sure many people know this, and a lot of people know him, and a lot of people don't. Mr. Bob Parker used to be out of Florida. He lives um, in Sycamore, Georgia now. Bob was in the
Hmm.
heat and air business for a long time, and he is very, very smart when it comes to air movement. So we're just about at that point of building the one that we want, and Bob will play with it for a couple of days, and he'll come back and tell us what we did right and what we did wrong. We shouldn't have any problems because it is a standard smoker that we have built, but we wanted to do one or two things that the others have not done before.
Hmm.
So we're very excited about this, but it's going to be a new prototype model, and hopefully it moves into production. Um, right now we're seeing this economy we live in
Hmm.
makes us all weary of what's happening next in Washington. And I talk to people all the time that just say, you know, I'd love to have one of the products, but today it's just not in the cards. I'm scared of what's happening in Washington, and I get that. So where we move tomorrow, it'll be like everybody else. We'll still be here, and we'll still be making the old tried and true things that make
Hmm.
us money, but we will be trying to uh, be profitable and keep our efficiency where it needs to be. But yeah, we're always thinking outside the box. We I don't want to use the word never. We don't move on those a lot because of where we stand today in the world as far as
Hmm.
an economy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But yeah, you'll see something after Christmas. I'm kind of keeping it on the low because the guy we're building it for wants it kind of quiet for a little while, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
want to keep it that
Sounds like
way.
a competition guy.
Yeah, he is. He is. And he's also a good fellow, and I think that he will he will make some marks on the world with this cooker when it gets here. And
Hmm.
so for that, I just want to leave it to him because he came to me and laid out exactly what he wanted and didn't. I don't want to say didn't ask what it's going to cost, but he said I'm more interested in this cooker than
Yeah.
what the cost is, and that's
Yeah.
how we
You
left
know
it.
what you know what you want. You know what you want. It is what it is, right?
Exactly.
So your cookers have been on TV a little bit. Have you done any TV yourself?
I don't do the competition thing. I'm always in the background most of the time when we had someone in the competition world. Though I left Robbie alone with what he was doing because the confidence was there that he was always going to succeed at anything he did. But
Hmm.
when Walter was out there, I was always in the background helping do whatever I could to facilitate looking good on TV. We've been very fortunate. Out of all the years that Barbecue Pitmasters won, I think one of our teams won it more than all the rest combined, or pretty close to
Yeah.
more than all the rest combined. And that just speaks volumes for the cooks that we had cooking on our stuff. Yeah, we make a good product, but at the end of the day, you got to have a good cook cooking on it also to move forward in the world. Um, I don't try to use that uh, ideology to push forward stump smokers because I believe every day you need to buy a product, you need to get comfortable with it and get good on it. I tell people all the time, I can probably go out and cook on a trash can lid. Does that mean I want to? No, I want to get me a gravity feed that I can put charcoal in and light a fire
Yeah.
in it, put a good meat product in it, and go watch some college football or something. So I understand that methodology perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's, the folks go when they're looking at the TV and they go, okay, well, maybe I should get one of those. And they ain't gonna turn you into a great cook. The same thing as, getting a particular sauce or a particular rub's not gonna turn you into a great cook. You got to do some cooking to become a great cook.
Yeah, and
But
there's nothing any better than I started out cooking on a pit where we shoveled coals, and you had to know where to fire at, and you had to know what times to fire at, because 40 years ago, 50 years ago, it was a big deal to burn a hog up. It not only was it a prideful thing, but it was also a financial thing that we just didn't have the money to burn something up. So you had to learn to do it right. You had to learn to do it right very quickly. And if you
yeah,
apply those principles to everything else you do, you'll always do well. Slow and slow truly is the best method. It renders the fat, it adds the flavor, it of course brings you tenderness. So once you get those three accepted ideas in your head, you will always be a great cook, and you can always, you can cook over an open fire, you can cook on a trash can lid, or you can cook on a stump smoker. It does not matter. You just apply heat to the meat. That's about what it amounts to. Learn to cook the meat. One of my favorite sayings,
yeah,
when people buy it and say, "Can you give me any pointers on what I need to do?" Learn to cook the meat.
yeah, absolutely. So, Stump Smokers, do you guys build grills at all, like a high temperature grill?
We do. We build grills. It's not our largest forte in what we do at Stump Smokers, but we do build
Hmm.
grills. And uh, a lot of the people that want our grills are the guy that on the back porch, or either people that have a competition or open trailer that want to, cook chicken, or they
Hmm.
carry it with them because we need something to eat on Friday night when we can't leave. So they
Yep.
they have hamburgers, hot dogs, or steaks, or whatever they want. And but yes, we do build grills. It's probably 10% of our business or less, but we build a really popular grill. There is there's an adage that if you build it and you build it right and you build it to withstand the test of time, that people will appreciate it. Not everybody's going to buy it because not everybody can afford, the quality of and the pounds of metal we put in it, but we certainly do what we do, and we do it with the utmost integrity of how we want something built, and we let it stand for itself.
Yeah. Well, now I know you guys build a fantastic product, and one that you probably can pass down to the kids. We're 16 years in. What happens when we get about 25, 30 years in, and everybody's just passed that one on down to the next one, and nobody buys smokers no more?
Well, we'll when that day comes, we'll forge forward on something else, but I don't think it's going to come.
Yeah.
I see people that want us to rebuild smokers. I see people
Hmm.
that want us to build them a new smoker. It humbles me more than you will know. And the smoker that I was talking about, that is the new evolution coming out now. He
Hmm.
is he's more than the average guy. He's already bought 5 smokers from us, so he's more than non-typical. But
Yeah.
I don't see our business going away. I see people that don't do what we do going
Hmm.
away because
Yeah.
I get told all the time, man, I used to cook on one of these XYZs and I got the option to cook on one of yours and now I want one. Um, are we always going to be a company that sells several hundred smokers a year? Who knows? We might drop back to 200 a year, 300 a year instead of 600, 700. But I don't see us going away unless I want to. We've already have plans in place for the next evolution. I'm getting to be an old man. I'm fixing to be 60 years old in March, and 5 more years, I'm going home, whether we like it or not. And Danny's in place to take it over and run with it, and he pretty much does that now. He operates everything except the dollars and cents as far as writing checks, but as far as what we buy, how we buy it, what we pay for it, he has taken all that over and does a fantastic job with it. So our evolution's in place. We hope that tomorrow, we hope that we know what's going on with this economy and this government. That's all we hope for.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got uh, a legacy plan in place, if per se a legacy plan in place there. Then, uh, so you're gonna retire and play golf, huh?
I'm going to retire and go to the farm and try to raise 3 or 4 Black Angus cattle and hope that I can raise enough that we can eat, 365 days a year. But yeah, I've worked. My dad had me working since I was 12, 13 years old. And I tell people that if I can't, by that time, if I can't have made it in 52, 53 years of work, I probably am not going to make it. So the best thing to do is go home and just enjoy what's left of life and try to be happy. I'm a pretty happy person now. We live on a little farm, and my
Yeah,
family is very happy out here, and it's very quiet and peaceful. And so that's kind of where uh, I want to always be.
yeah, absolutely. Well, and you got the kiddo and everything else too. So, well earned, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
So hit me with the socials, and we'll wrap this thing up.
So what do you mean by hit you with the socials?
It's hit where my listeners can
Oh,
find a stump smoker.
yes, sir. If you're looking for a stump smoker, you can email me, and that's sales@stumpsmokers.com. You can go to our website, which is www.stumpsmokers.com, or give us a call at our telephone number. The great thing about Stump Smokers is I'm the only person you talk to about sales. If you call Stump Smokers and want to buy a smoker, you need to talk to Thad. And that number is 478-328-1500. And I just am honored to talk to good customers every day. And we will sit on the phone, talk as long as you want, talk about everything you want to talk about. As you can tell, I'm a pretty big talker. So finding out information about smokers is my job. It is part of what makes customer service paramount around Stump Smokers, and we'd love to have you. Love to talk to you.
Absolutely. That it's been great. I appreciate your time, and we'll get this. We'll cut the live feed here, guys. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, I would appreciate a review, a like, a share, and as always, keep smoking.